Here we are with Kazi Mghendi already, and Elimu Fanaka. It's very impactful and a very powerful tool to transform communities. I'm seeing here they have already, with over 6,000 learners who have been positively influenced, and this is across a couple of regions from Taita Taveta to Kajiado to Narok counties as well. Kazi Mghendi's efforts are going to underscore the vital role that education plays in fostering sustainable change. Yesterday was World Children Day, so this is also one of those programs which are very key in providing visionary leadership and also community development. Let's get to hear from her. Of course, I don't want to preempt so much. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Richard. Yes. As you've heard, my name is Kazi Mghendi, and I am the team lead and founder of Elimu Fanaka. My role there is to steer ahead the vision, but I have a team on the ground that is doing all this work, including the community that we work with. Our work, as I mentioned, Richard, is more participatory and very human-centered, and so we focus on how can we work with the communities to move them from where they are to where they desire to be. Okay. And the goal of Elimu Fanaka, which is ultimately, is to create sustainable communities. For many years now, we have seen that rural communities have been left behind, and we always go back to solving the same problems many years back, or we find things that we've done worse than we had left them. And so our goal is, instead of us going back to solve the problems, how can we work together with the communities to actually solve those problems? And so we focus on participatory approach and human-centered design to work with the community so that we can move forward. And so that's why you see Elimu Fanaka, which works with schools as centers, and education is the tool.
Elimu Fanaka, prosperity, education for prosperity. Why prosperity?
I believe for any human to prosper, you need education, and that is debatable, because you might ask me education, and there's so many children or so many young people who are educated and they're still not prosperous. But it's education in what phase? Like, what is education for you? Because education can mean so many things to many people. So for us is wholeness education, spiritual, mental, physical, and intellectual education, because you might go to school and learn all these books and still remain where you are, but then you can meet someone and be educated and get something from them that will really transform your life. And so what Elimu Fanaka does is we do alternative learning approach. So already the government has curriculum and things that they're doing in class with children, but what Elimu Fanaka comes to do is, what is the alternative approaches that we can work with kids and community to move them from where they are to where they are desiring to be.
What are some of these alternative programs? I know, as I already mentioned, people should be checking out the website, elimufanaka.org, so that they are also following through as you are discussing with us here. What are some of these alternative approaches? So
we have two programs. We have Nawiri, which focuses on children. So Nawiri is a Swahili word for thriving, and we believe that it's at that age of the children that start thriving and becoming responsible adults. And so I was speaking with you earlier, and I told you, asked me why children. I said, samaki mkunje angali mbichi. So you want to focus on these kids when they're still young and instill in them these principles that they can grow with. And I'll give an example. Yesterday we were working with kids through a session of financial stewardship, something that perhaps you learn when you're in university, or you learn on your own on YouTube University, right? So we're teaching kids how to, last session was around the history of money and why do people use money now, and what should we do with money. And then this yesterday we're doing about, so you have money, what should you do with it? We started talking about the principle of 50, 30, 20, something that even the teachers who were sitting in the class or the adults were like, I should have learned this earlier. Like, I need to sit in this class and learn. And so catch them when they're still young, because while they're still young, they'll be able to learn how to manage and steward their lives to become responsible adults. And so that's why we do Nawiri. So in Nawiri we do two things. We do alternative ways of learning, which is we use arts and culture and mentorship to support kids. And then we also do literacy and numeracy, because one thing that we know, even though Kenya we have gone to university and all, if you go to rural primary schools, some of them, kids who are even in class 8 last year, or this year rather, they did not know how to read and write. And so that's a struggle. And so we want to work with them we have libraries and books we give them, and so we work with them through reading seminars, creative writing, and also debate and spelling bee, helping them to build that confidence in speaking and also writing, so that they're able to understand the questions, because they come in English. Fortunately or unfortunately, we should learn in our vernacular, but hey, here we are. The world is built by this one language, unfortunately, but we have to really navigate through that. So how do we help these children through numeracy and literacy so that they can catch up with the rest of the world?
Okay.
Yes.
That
and
is
then
Nawiri.
That's Nawiri.
Okay.
And then the second program is Imarisha. We believe that we cannot work with children if we don't bring the adult in the center. So our base or our foundation is how can we strengthen the parent and the teacher so that they can help this child to holistically get this education that we really want them to get. So, because Richard, you are my student, right? You come to school, you learn, and then you are learning these alternative methods of learning, like savings and others. You go home and you tell your mom, I need 5 bob to put in my saving box. They're like, yeah, 5 bob tunafaa kununua nayo sabuni, you know. And so you need first to help all the facets so that they can work together. And so that's why Imarisha is there to strengthen the capacity of parents and teachers so that they can holistically help the learner.
Yeah. Right. So you're using learners and you're also using the community as well,
yes.
even
so
the adults within the community.
we're working with all of them. So yeah, because our ultimate goal is to create sustainable communities. And generation is sisi tumefika huku, we're like at 30s and we're moving forward, right? So this is the generation that is coming, and we really need to make sure that we have instilled these principles so that they're able to become better citizens.
Right. So Club Ujuzi is within Nawiri, it's not a separate program?
No, it's a club within Nawiri. So Club Ujuzi is now where they go and have fun. They go outside, they have school farms, they plant fruit trees and vegetables, and in the meantime they're growing so that they can sell to the school, and also if they have surplus they can sell to the community. I'll give you an example. There's a school in Taita Taveta called Makingali Primary School, and if you're from Makingali, shout out. I'm also an alumni from there. They were doing beadwork, so that's also part of Club Ujuzi. So Club Ujuzi, kids are allowed to choose what they want to do. So the kids were doing apiculture, which is beekeeping. The kids were doing permaculture, which is the organic farming. And then the kids were doing beading and weaving. And we're hoping at some point in Kajiado, maybe if they want to do animal husbandry, they can do that. And so last year they were doing beading, and they sold close to 50,000. And so what they're doing with this money is now they will take the money and revolve it back into either the beading, or if they don't want to do that, they can lend the money to another school which is doing Club Ujuzi, and then they can use the money and then return it back with an interest. So now we grow a revolving fund around the Club Ujuzis in different schools. Yeah.
All right. That is also, a notable achievement that you could point out from your program. I just wanted us to know how you measure your impact in terms of, I know maybe it's some of those activities and in the success of them. But since we're looking at a sustainable community, how can we take a look back from next year and say now we are making progress?
That's a really good question. I love that question because I just came from a conversation on Sunday about impact and reach, and the argument was like most of the organizations are looking at the numbers, the numbers of people we've reached, 6,000, 10,000, a million. But what Elimu Fanaka is doing is we're looking at impact as, is this community able to do this thing on their own? Should Elimu Fanaka draw back and say we're no longer in existence? Will this community still move along? And can they be even the tool that other people can come and learn from? And I'll give you an example now, using Club Ujuzi. Say we have School X. So this school has been doing Club Ujuzi for 2-3 years, and they have really grown. They have a greenhouse, they have an apiary for apiculture, they have other things. And so because of that, the money that they have been getting as revenue, they've used to either revamp their libraries. They put books in the library and computers, and they've opened that library to, because we also do community resources as a library center. So our library is not close to, say in KU, the library is not just
close to the fraternity.
The fraternity is open to the community outside. So then they're able to bring other people, and they'll pay either 5 shillings or 10 shillings to be in the library. So that money generates income to improve and first lift the school, but also the kids feel confident and they are proud of their school. So other schools start looking inside and they're like, we want to do what school X has done. And so for us, that is impact. Impact is when our community has been able to lift themselves from where they are, and now they're actually transferring those skills to other people.
What I'm getting here, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, when it comes to that question which I had asked earlier on, is education really the greatest equalizer? I feel maybe we've been taking a look at it the wrong way, or I'll speak for myself, which is thinking that it's an equalizer between me and someone else, maybe to get to a level of income where, you know, I'm also as rich as other people. But I think from your perspective, from the angle in which you're approaching it with Elimu Fanaka, it's equalizing even communities, which means there's communities which have resources as well off as others which, you know, have previously been marginalized.
I'll tell you, so I read a book, and if you love reading like me, you can go and read. It's called the Walkouts Who Walked On. So walk out, walk on. And it talks about communities that defied the norm, and they were like, we don't want to just sit down and do everything that everyone is doing. Let's start working together as a community and start figuring out, can we solve our problems ourselves? Because Tomboya said, there's no one coming to save you, to save us. So let's just rise and start doing these things on ourselves. So if education is an equalizer, then what is education? That's the question. Is it me going to school and sitting in class and having so much theory that when I'm done with school, I really don't know what to do with it? Or is it me learning practical things that can really help me? Club Ujuzi means a club for skills. So these kids are learning skills that will help them. Should they finish school and not go to high school and university, they have something they can focus on. I'll give you a short story about myself. So I grew up in Taita Taveta, where our office is. We're in Kajiado and Narok, as you've had. And at the age of 12, I was finishing my class 8 because my mom was so busy, so we went to school very early. And 13, I'm supposed to go to Form 1, or 14, I'm supposed to go to Form 1, but I didn't. I stayed out of school for 7 years because during that time was also the time that Moi government was retrenching a lot of people. So my mom and dad were retrenched, and they lost their job, they lost their property, they lost everything. And so we went from wherever we were to nothing. Bottom of bottoms. And so that meant I could not go to high school. And so for 7 years, I had to figure out life. I started working at 13, selling things on the street, babysitting people's homes, being a nanny, and all those things that people do that are really rough for children. And I'm just imagining, if my school had Club Ujuzi, I would have known I could use my mom's little farm to grow vegetables and start selling the vegetables. And maybe in a span of 6 months, I would have gone back to school. Or if Club Ujuzi was in my school, and because it's involving the community, my mom would have learned that she could use other ways to help us to go to school. So I'm thinking, Kazi, who is in school right now, should she not, and God forbid that she doesn't go to high school. I'm so grateful for the government because things have been subsidized. Education is now almost free even for the high school, like the day school. You only pay a few things. So kids should be able to go to school. But should that happen, this child has enough skill, educated enough to navigate life challenges. Anyway, I went to high school.
Eventually you did?
Yes. I went to high school and I finished my degree at DESA and my master's at USIU.
So you went to high school 7 years later?
Yes, I was 19 when I was in Form 1.
Man.
I don't know.
A few people can relate to this story, and a few who are watching, actually, I'm just not going to mention their names. You see, you're not the only person who went to high school way later. When it speaks to, when we talk about some of these initiatives which are community-centered, I don't know if this is a curveball to you, and you can let me know. But cultural and socio-economic contexts also come into play. So how do you factor that in the context of the different communities in which, and these are different counties you're trying also to expand into? Do you have that in mind, and how do you approach?
We do, and I love Kenya because it's so beautiful. It's multi-tribal, multicultural, and that's the beauty of our country. So the thing about the work that we do, we don't go knocking people's doors and just saying, hey, we're here, we have this amazing thing that we want to do with you. But what we do is we work with people that have invited us. So like Taita Taveta County, So let me just retract back. So when I was thinking of Elimu Fanaka back in 2010, before even I went to high school, my dream was, I used to see in the television every time in Turkana, there's floods, kids are dying, there's hunger. So I used to tell myself, when I grow up, I'm going to be a trade ambassador, and then I'll have so much money, and then I'll build this big complex in Turkana that will be a school, and then the rich will go and take their kids there, but then 30% of that will be
used in the community.
Yeah, the community. So I was thinking Turkana, because everyone sees other people's problem. But then when we registered, someone asked me, why don't you start from your doorstep? People in Taita Taveta, they still do not have the education, so why don't you start from your doorstep? So then I retracted my thinking, and I was like, let me go to Taita Taveta. And then because because of my journey, like I said, I started working at 17, I left home when I was very young. At 13, I left home when I was a teenager. And so I came to Nairobi when I was 17, and so now going back to Taita, I'm speaking English, I don't know Kitaita, and I now have to figure my Kiswahili has an accent, and so it was so funny how to like connect with people. But then I had to go back to my primary school, my alumnus. And so I said, I was a student here, I don't know how many years back, and I really love to give back. And so I had to start from there. And then when we started growing to go to Kajiado, we had to work with county ambassadors, people who know us, and they know our work, and they believe that our work is amazing, and then they open doors to us. And because they speak the language of these people, we work with them. And then we have to be humble enough to learn from this culture, to learn from these people, so that we can work together to solve the problem, because we're not giving them solutions. Solutions come from the community. People who have the problems also have the solutions. So we have that mentality of, we do not know how to solve your problems, you solve them yourself, but we're here to work together to do it. And that's why it is a participatory approach and not us coming to give you what we know.
Right. I have a question from a teacher here. It's called Mr. John, and he's asking, how do you integrate within the school curriculum? Does it run parallel, or is it within the curriculum?
Thank you so much, Mr. John. That's a really good question. So, Elimu Fanaka is an after-school program. So we do not interfere with the school program at all. We are very respectful of the learning, and one of the things usually we try as much as we can to do is to not go to school when there's learning continuing. So we do our after-school program after the evening break, when kids are almost breaking to go home. So most of the sessions are like 45 minutes during school time, and then when the school closes is when we have like longer sessions, either in the community. And so how are they integrated in the normal learning? So if we're doing like reading seminar is, we pick a book, so that's under Nawiri, right? Literacy. So we pick a storybook, we read with kids, and then we do hard words, we do creative writing, so we give them assignments. So we believe by doing that, we're helping the teachers, because in CBC there's reading, so we're helping the teachers to, in that progress of helping their kids to know how to read and write. In the writing, creative writing, the kids are also learning how to. Klabu Juzi has borrowed a lot from CBC. So in CBC there's agriculture, and they're learning how to do organic farming, they're using shed nets, they're finding creative ways of farming in dry and drought spaces. So I was actually looking at the agriculture grade 5 book, and I was like, oh my goodness, they're doing similar things that we're doing. And so I was so happy that we're not really off completely from the Kenyan curriculum, but we're doing things outside the classroom. So it's after school program.
It's an after school program. So if you're a school out there who'd like to have this, of course, as she said, they go to the people who want them as well. So please invite over Elimu Fanaka to your institution. Mr. John Ototo, I believe, who's asked us that question. Are there any notable partnerships that have been able to bring you to the point?
Elimu Fanaka does not work alone. So we believe that in this non-profit space, you cannot work alone, because the only profit you're making is the change and the impact that you're creating. And so for us to be able to move forward, we have to work with the government, the Ministry of Education, but also we work with other organizations that are working in the education space. And I would like to mention specifically what is happening this weekend. With Metis Collective, we have something we call Reimagine Ed, where we're reimagining education, and we have Reimagine Ed Summit that is happening on Thursday and Friday, and we're going to talk everything around CBC. Is CBC working for all? Your question of equalizer. Is it really working for all? And so if you're interested, please go to Metis Collective website and register to attend. It's going to happen at the Nairobi National Museum on Thursday and Friday. And also you'll find us there showcasing. So you'll come and learn what does Elimu Fanaka do in real place. We have a fun game that we do. It's a numeracy and literacy game. It's called Gonga the Game. And using Gonga the Game, kids are playing something like bowling, but at the same time they're learning how to be confident. They're learning how to relate with each other in a very respectful way. They're learning how to count, they're learning how to read, they're learning how to write. So, yes.
Okay, please do show up there and check out metiscollective.org. I'm here to just give you information. She's the expert. I'm just relaying what is left there.
Too.
So metiscollective.org, that's where you get to check out and register for Reimagine Ed. So Reimagine Education.
Yes.
One word that has been recently brought up, especially if we're speaking about CPC, it's capacity building. Do you do capacity building for Elimu Fanaka, or
That's
do
a
you
good question.
have instructors that you send out?
We call it capacity strengthening because
Okay.
we believe that you already built.
Okay.
So what is it that we can strengthen in you? So we do strengthening of teachers and parents, but also we do strengthening of our own team. So when you ask about partnership, we have so many partnerships that come to support our team, whether it's in leadership development or just organizational learning. We have other organizations that come to strengthen our teachers. So apart from Metis, we work with other organizations out there, and you can check our website. We have put all our partners up there. We also capacity strengthen the community. So say, for example, the community have a knowledge and skill, but they do not have resources. So how then do you capacity strengthen them? By working with them, training them on how to maintain and manage the resources that they have to create more out of that. Yes. So.
Okay. There are very many challenges within the education sector in the nation, and now you're a stakeholder. There may be recommendations that you have that could improve the current education curriculum. Maybe there are pointers here and there that you've been able to encounter and smoothen on your way.
So I want to say that I'm a fan of CBC. I love CBC, and CBC reminds me my time when I was school. I'm not that old, but I did the 844 where before they phased out the the masonry, the tailoring, the home science, the music, there was a lot of skills that people were learning. And so I want to think that my cousins who are older than me, they, even when they went to college or high school, they still had skills that they came out of primary school with. And so I'm a supporter of CBC, and I love CBC, and I think if delivered well, and if teachers are capacity strengthened, and parents are also informed on how to support their children, this curriculum is the best for Kenya and for our children today.
Right. One of the problems we are facing in our community, if you're speaking community in general, we are speaking as Kenyans, as a community, is leadership, right? And if we talk of sustainable communities, there's an importance to have also leadership development in the context of education. Do you have this also as well within Elimu Fanaka, and what kind of impact are you expecting to have?
We do. So under Nawiri, we have leadership. So our mentorship is all centered around leadership. How do you support children to become, I hate the word character development because it has been misused. So now we actually call leadership development. So our children learn to become leaders, to become responsible citizens. But if you look at Imarisha, the two activities under Imarisha is parents, economic and leadership development. And we also have teachers, professional and leadership development. Because I believe leadership is the thing that has really either moved a country forward or stagnated us to where we are. And so we use an approach called adaptive leadership, because adaptive leadership means that you're adapting to the current situation and working with the challenges that people are facing and figuring out how to navigate through that. And I learned that from an amazing school of leadership called Adaptive Change Advisors. You can check them online. I was one of the facilitators there for a while, and they always have like the workshops every quarter. So if you're interested, you can go on Adaptive Change Advisor and check and learn about adaptive leadership, because that's a best way of looking at leadership in general, because you're looking at leadership from the community or the people themselves and figuring out how can I work with this group from here to point B, where is their imagined reality or desired reality. Yeah.
All right. I have here Sophia Mwikali. She says she's very passionate with education. Can she join Elimu Fanaka as an instructor?
Thank you so much, Sophia. We are always looking for volunteers. So if you go to our website, you can see our email is info@Elimu Fanaka. And if you like to volunteer, you can share your expertise and tell us what you want to do. And maybe we don't have a job at the moment, but we do have something for you, which is volunteering to support us either in the work that we do. See what is of interest for you, and then let us know where you can give your hand, because we're always looking for people. We're only 5 on the ground, and so we really need that capacity strengthening in terms of volunteers.
Okay. All right. One thing I really love as we close up is these images I'm seeing on the site of the kids in the farms, all looking like farmers.
Yeah.
This is good for them. You're 21 and you have 16 years of work experience already at that point. It's going to be really good for sustainable communities.
Yes.
As we wrap up now, Kazi, could you share maybe just one takeaway? I know there's been many, but just one takeaway, or in 2 sentences or so, on the transformative power of education and the mission that Elimu Fanaka has.
Okay. So I believe that for us to be transformed as a community, we have to work as a collective. We have to move together. So my final words would be like, don't look at education as a single thing standing alone. It's education that brings all this together. So the doctor needed education, the teacher needed education, everyone that you see on the street really needed education. So how can we work together collectively to support the education system and not point finger and say, it's not working, this needs to be done that way. If you know how to do it better, then please bring your knowledge and let's work together so that we can move this forward and transform our communities. And that is why Elimu Fanaka.
Right.
Yes.
Kazi, passion, dedication, that's all I can hear from you. Thank you very much for the change you're trying to create.
Thank you so much, Richard, for having me.
All right.
And I'm so grateful for being here. And I hope you all will look us up on our social medias too, and follow our work so that you can replicate it in your community. You don't have to have us come to your community. If you see what you're doing is great, come and learn and do it. Because my hope is that we can be all Elimu Fanakas all over Kenya.
All right. Yes. Education is the change that we have. Stay educated, stay inspired as well. May your days be filled with laughter, just like Kazi's name in Swahili, which means work. Yeah. But she's shown us here how meaningful work can be also a joyous adventure, isn't it?
Yes.
All right, a short break on Biashara Tuesday. I'll be right back with much more. Nick Mwadime Mwangi is preparing to have us a look at the headlines and also the important stories of the day. What is happening in politics and how is it affecting your business? Don't go too far.